we are going to be ranking some of the biggest derbies in the UK, and there's definitely some shocks and some fans will definitely be angry at my decisions. Hello and welcome back to the Canaries Chat football channel. Today we have another tier list. This time we are going through all the derbies, or most of the derbies within the UK. The list covers, I think, predominantly all of them. Doesn't do like all the Scottish ones. I think it's just the big firm. We've got some stats to go along the way, which I think were valid at the end of 2025 season, so it doesn't include anything that's happened this year. Some of them I have more knowledge on than others, but I'm going to be ranking it kind of on entertainment, the rivalry between fans, and things along those lines. So let's get into it. So we've got Burnley Blackburn to start. So we have, well, a derby that has regularly happened within the Championship. I can't really remember too many of their games. Again, that's just my opinion. That'll be a lot of my opinion in this video, which I'm sure people won't really like. But yeah, I can't overly remember it producing too many bangers. I'm putting that straight in C. We then have Cardiff Swansea. So I believe this is the only derby in Wales that we have. Again, it's a pretty kind of even record, to be honest. Cardiff 45, Swansea 41, 26 draws. For me, I actually really like this derby. I think it's normally quite entertaining. There's quite a lot of kind of gusto behind it. Is it one of the best ones? No, it's probably not right towards the top, but I would put them in B. We have then Chelsea Fulham. So this one is obviously a bit more lopsided towards Chelsea. 51 wins, Fulham 12, 19 draws. Although this season has obviously been a bit more of an upset. I don't know if I really classify this as a proper derby, proper hatred between fans. I think there's a lot of, when you've got lots of clubs in a small kind of area like London, I think it's quite difficult. There's teams that seem to have nearly multiple derbies. I'm looking, you've got Chelsea Fulham, it looks like Chelsea Arsenal, Chelsea Tottenham. Like, it's difficult to have a proper rivalry when you've supposedly got three rivalries. For me, it just seems to be like another game in the Premier League. So I'm putting that in C. C for me. Peterborough Cambridge next. Another one that I don't know loads about. I'm going to just pop it in C. There's not much for me to comment on. It happens obviously in the lower leagues. I've seen it a few times as a Norwich fan. It's sometimes been relevant to us, but straight into C. If you have a look at the stats, it's not too lopsided. Peterborough 38, Cambridge 28, 21 draws, but firmly in the C department. We then have Liverpool Man U. So one of the bigger ones. Again, I feel like when you have multiple rivals, it does make it a little bit harder. I feel like there's a Liverpool Man U, Liverpool Everton, Liverpool Man City over recent years as well, because they've been the most successful teams. Liverpool Man U, I think, is one that unfortunately has lost a bit of kind of fierceness, and I think that's mainly due to also Man U dropping off so much that there isn't so much on the line when these teams are playing each other. For me, B. Uncomfortable B. If I'm honest, it doesn't kind of like excite me as much as what it used to do. But in regards to that, Liverpool 71, Man United 82, 59 draws. So again, relatively equal. Obviously, Liverpool probably been clawing that back recently. You then do have Liverpool Everton, so obviously a kind of one city derby. Definitely a bit more zip in it than, for me anyway, Liverpool Man U. I feel there's a contradiction I'm going to make in places, but because they're so on top of each other, they'll be working with Everton, Liverpool fans working together. I don't know if that adds or takes away from the derby. I'm a Norwich fan, so like the likelihood of me working with an Ipswich fan is very low. So I feel like there's a bit more kind of, a bit more, I wouldn't say animosity, but a bit more because you're not seeing them as much and you're not going to get it in the neck when you're going to work and stuff. I don't know if that adds to it or takes away from it, but for the Liverpool Everton, I'm putting them. They'll be my first A for me. Then I have West Ham Millwall, the inspiration between for Green Street. Yeah, an absolute. This is a London derby which does have a lot of kind of hatred in it. For me, it's S tier. It's just pure chaos. I think all neutrals, when West Ham, Millwall like drawn in the cup or anything like that, all neutrals get excited. I think this is going to be just going to kick off. And I know people say you don't like the ugly scenes, you don't want to see that, but I think a little bit of us, we all want to see a bit of kind of needle. And yeah, for me, firmly an S tier. And I think, to be honest, the next one is very similar. So just quickly in regards to West Ham Millwall, it is very close. 37 West Ham, 38 Millwall, 25 draws. Next one is Birmingham Villa, which is 59 Villa, 38 Birmingham, 27 draws. But this is another one you only have to think about kind of Jack Grealish getting walloped in the back of the head. I think it's another derby that a lot of neutrals have interest in, and for me is S tier. Now we get into Man U Leeds. So a rivalry that doesn't happen loads because obviously Leeds have been a little bit up and down, spent a long time in the Championship as well. General record, Man U 50, Leeds 26, 24 draws. There is a bit more bite in this for me than Man U Liverpool. I think, again, maybe because it just doesn't happen as frequently. You think of kind of the games that are happening, and then you had like Alan Smith going between Leeds and Man U and games along those lines in that era that they're absolutely full throttle. I'm going A tier for this one. We then have the North London Derby. So 88 Arsenal, 67 Spurs, 55 draws. This one for me, if you had asked me maybe like 10 or so years ago, would have been quite high. But again, I just feel like it's just lost a bit of spark. There was the one recently and there was hardly a like big tackle in sight or anything like that. So I'm going to put it in B. I think it's very similar to Liverpool Man U. It just seemed to have lost a bit of spice in it. We then have Forest Derby. So Forest 43, Derby 33, 30 draws. I remember it going on in the Championship a lot of times. It always was a big kind of game within the Championship fixtures. For me, very middle of the road, and the B category is filling up, but it is going in B there. Then have Palace Brighton. So this one is more kind of not geographical, their rivalry. It is a weird one. There's 40 Palace, 39 Brighton, 28 draws. And I think this one gets an unnecessary amount of stick. I actually think if you look between Palace fans and Brighton fans, there is genuine kind of hatred between them. I think, is it as big as some of the other ones in B? No, for me personally, because of potentially the history behind it. However, I do think it gets a little bit slept on as a derby, and yeah, I'll put them in C. They're not D. That's not a D for me. I don't think loads are going to fall within that, but C for them. And then we've got West Brom Wolves. So 41 West Brom, 34 Wolves, 20 draws. This, again, for me, is very similar to the Birmingham Villa, and it's not just because they're very close together. It is one of those derbies that there is genuine hatred. You only need to see how Wolves and West Brom fans kind of talk about each other's teams, and when they do, I think the game was kind of either called off or temporarily stopped because of all the kind of issues in the stands, which, as I said, are the ugly scenes which we do not like to see. I'm going to put it in S tier as well. We then move over to Newcastle Sunderland. So 54 for Newcastle, 53 for Sunderland, 50 draws. Probably the most even derby that we've seen so far. Did happen a fair few times in the Championship when Newcastle were kind of back and forth. Same with Sunderland. It then didn't happen for a while because Sunderland's relegation to League One and Newcastle really started ramping things up. I mean, you saw kind of the videos going around of police officers going up to Newcastle fans making sure if they're on orders that they're not going to go to the games. High police presence. Do have entertaining games. They also have sometimes little dull games. However, I really like it as a derby, and yeah, I'm going to put that in. Should we go? We'll go A tier. We then have Oxford Swindon. So 43 Swindon, 36 Oxford, 25 draws. I don't want this to seem harsh or offensive or anything like that. I genuinely just don't know enough about this derby, so I'm going to have to put that in D for me. And if people will come at me for my knowledge of football, that's absolutely fine. I'm willing to accept that my knowledge around Oxford and Swindon's derby it is low. We then have the Bristol derby. So 45 for Bristol City, 26 for Bristol Rovers, and 20 draws. The team that hates just being called Bristol, because I made that mistake on my other channel. However, they are kind of worlds apart now in regards to where they are. So I think if you're talking about one Bristol in one league, then it makes sense who you're talking about. I actually do really like it as a derby when it used to happen. I'm going to pop that in B for me. Then Luton Watford. So Watford 28, Luton 22, 17 draws. Happened a few times in the Championship, obviously, with Luton passing through, going up to the Premier League. Yeah, very steady Eddie derby for me. B. Nice and easy. We then have Reading Oxford, which again, for me, at least I've kind of seen, I feel like I've seen this one a little bit more when it has happened. Reading 29, Oxford 16, and 16 draws. Or maybe I'm just thinking that I've seen it more. But yeah, compared to the Swindon one, which I wasn't really sure on, I'm going to just pop it in the lower end of C. We then have Port Vale versus Stoke. So Stoke 59, Port Vale 28, 21 draws. Yeah, it's a tricky one. It just doesn't really happen anymore. It won't really ever happen loads in the future either. So it is kind of very historical derby. If I'm honest, can I remember one of the games? No, but I did know that they were rivals and things like that. So I'm going to pop them in. Let's go C. Chelsea Arsenal. Very similar, to be honest, for a lot of the B tier ones. Is that I actually think there's probably more zip in these ones than there is in Arsenal Spurs at the moment. However, I'm going to pop it in B. I think it's where its place is. In regards to the record, 81 Arsenal, 66 Chelsea, 59 draws. So obviously one of the more frequent ones because of their time spent in the Premier League. But yeah, it's one I certainly would look out for, but not one that really excites me like the top three currently. So then have Wimbledon MK Dons. So obviously huge historical kind of background to this Wimbledon MK Dons, moving to MK Dons and everything that's happened. That rivalry really does kind of burn quite deep into that local area. For me, it's an A. I think everyone is, when everyone sees it, everyone obviously always ends up taking Wimbledon's kind of side, wants them to win because of what happened. But I think a lot of football fans hear that and they go, oh God, that'll be worth a watch. So yeah, I've gone A there. In regards to the record, MK Dons 17, Wimbledon 9, and 6 draws. But as I said, that's a very new derby, so there's not going to be loads there. Brentford QPR, Brentford 32, QPR 27, 20 draws. I'm just going to pop it in C. Again, it's not one that's ever really kind of massively come up on my radar. And unfortunately, it's not kind of one that I ever look out for. Hasn't happened for a few years because of Brentford's success. QPR obviously then had a few years in the Premier League as well when Brentford were working their way through. kind of League One and the Championship. So yeah, we'll put that there. Got Man U, Man City. For me, looking at the record, Man U 79, City 61, 53 draws. They've just had it, and Man U came away 2-0 winners. The passion was still there. It clearly still meant a lot. There was a bit of needle. I would still comfortably put it in B. I don't think it hits kind of like where the others are. I still think Man U Leeds seems to be like the more challenging game, the more up for it game. So yeah, I'm going to put that in B. And then we have Norwich versus Ipswich. So as I said, I'm a Norwich fan. Ipswich's record is 36. We've got Ipswich 38, Norwich 36, 30 draws. We obviously had that very long unbeaten run, 16 years. I actually think it is, I'm going to be biased, aren't I? I think it's a little bit disrespected. I think there is a really good game a lot of the time. When we play, I think the rivalry is genuinely fierce and genuinely there. However, I'm not kind of so deluded to think that we should be really, really high up in the list, but I am going to slap it straight into the Bs. We then have the Steel City Derby, so Sheffield United versus Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield United won 50, Wednesday 48, 33 draws. Wednesday obviously going for a really kind of tricky time at the moment. Speaking from experience, Sheffield United fans aren't necessarily the nicest ones whenever we've gone to Bramall Lane. And if that's what they're like with Norwich, who we kind of formed a little bit of a fake rivalry with them, I wouldn't want to think what they're like with Wednesday fans. So I'm going to pop that in A. We then have the South Coast Derby. So we've got Portsmouth and Southampton. Portsmouth 46, Southampton 39, 26 draws. I think a little bit similar to the East Anglian Derby. I do think there is a genuine big rivalry there. And yeah, they sometimes get a little bit kind of left behind in places when people are thinking about derbies and how good they are. For me, I'd actually maybe argue it's a little bit better than ours. So when I see that come up, I get excited for that game. Obviously, I get more excited for ours, but I'm trying to be impartial. I'm going to put that in A for me. And then we have two left. We have Chelsea versus Tottenham. So overall record 79 Chelsea, 55 Tottenham, 43 draws. I'm going to put that in C. Again, I think this is more around Chelsea having so many rivals. It really makes it hard to kind of get excited when they're playing a rival every other like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So yeah, I'm going to put them in C. And then we have Celtic versus Rangers. Rangers 169, Celtic 168, 102 draws. It is an absolutely huge rivalry. There is genuine kind of dislike and hatred between fans. It runs deeper than football. The one bit that maybe just takes it away from S tier for me is the frequency of the games. I think because they play each other so much, in my head it takes it a little bit away. You, as a neutral, you don't get as excited because you know they're playing so often. But they would be getting A tier, and yeah, it is one of the games that I would watch, but like I don't get absolutely buzzing for it. Where those S tier games are, again, trying to be neutral, but those S tier games will be a definite watch. You want to watch those, and you'll make time to watch them. But I'm very, very confident that people will disagree with this in places. So if you do, comment down below and say what you would change. As always, if you did enjoy the video, you're liking the tier list, like and subscribe, and we will see you very shortly for another video.